nominate you as a keynote speaker next year. And while I'm speaking, don't interrupt because you're behaving like Arnav. So let me come back. Where there is so much of money, where there is so much of commercial pressure, the media begins to crumble. So, the freedom of speech is as important as the freedom with which I get the truth. And it is not happening, but is it crumbling? It is. People are in denial. You know, I mean, FICCI and all, nice organizations, sweet and all that, but people are in denial. You think it's not happening? Of course it's happening. Remember, this is like a cozy club. No one wants to shake the boat because, you know, you're moving from one organization to the other. It's not like the BBC where, you know, we have to pay license fees on every television set you buy in India. So these guys are protected. I mean, other than what they do with little children. But having said that...
It was a long time ago.
Sure, absolutely.
A long time ago.
Absolutely. Suppressed though it was. Point one wishes to make is that we are in very troubled times in India. There is a pressure from the state. That pressure is exerted through the advertising that the state gives you. There is pressure in terms of stature and invitations and junkets. There is commercial pressure. I remember up until the 1960s, you had ownership of newspapers, but a large part of that was bereft of any editorial interference. Today you have owners also donning editorial hats. Now, I'm not here to comment whether it's good or bad, I'm just laying the picture for you. So when you talk about the freedom of speech, there must be also a freedom to interpret. Now, if I tell Simon that this is a newspaper and there's an article, and you don't know if that article has been planted or not, I'm actually confusing Simon. I'm lying to Simon. That, to my mind, is a more grievous injury that I'm blowing or inflicting on the hapless reader or viewer. So, my view would be, there is grave danger to freedom of speech in this country. We are now being ruled by right-wing party. That's up to them. But there are fringe elements that are taking over. In this very city, you have jokers who are objecting to fashion shows in museums. The same jokers who haven't won one seat in the last election. You can't see anything because people are worried that instead of discourse, dialogue and debate, you're resorting to violence and you're resorting to external pressures. And this is a serious issue.
Monica, do you agree with Suhail's point? Put down quite a lot of challenges to broadcasters like NDTV and others.
You know, Suhail made a very, very valid point about monetization. Raghav spoke about it in the earlier session. I just want to say, I think there will always be challenges in terms of how do you get revenue for a business that's very, very expensive. The BBC, for all its license fee, is still in a lot of trouble when it comes to, and having said that, I think transparency is the key. I think the idea is so you spoke about the plant. I think if you are, for instance, the page 3 phenomena in newspapers, where they've actually now started putting out saying this is a sponsored issue. It's really small and I don't think people see it. But transparency is the key. If you are, for any show which you think fits in with your editorial content, or for a certain genre, whether, let's see, it's a show on cars, or it's a show on travel or food, and you are getting in a sponsor for it, tell your audience. I don't see anything wrong in that, because then they can take that decision. They can decide whether they want to watch it, they don't want to watch it, they want to come to your channel, they don't want to come to your channel. If you have investors in your network and you're doing a story, for instance, we always run a disclaimer if there is a conflict of interest. I know Mint does that as well. If they do a story and there is a conflict of interest, they actually put it out. For whatever there is, tell your audience, tell your viewers.
Treat them as grown-ups.
I mean, they will decide for themselves if they're okay with it.
I think that's absolutely right, because the tension you describe
trust. My belief is that even the quality of journalism in this country has deteriorated. What has happened is, in this culture of instant sound bites that we have kind of bestowed on ourselves, the diligence with which journalists used to work in many organizations doesn't exist anymore. Now look at the irony of India. Television anchors are writing editorial page pieces in newspapers. Newspaper editors are walking the talk on her channel. Now you tell me, in our times, in the good old days, editors were read, never seen. Today editors are seen because they can't write. Half these Johnnies can't write. I don't know when, I don't want to take names, FICCI will get into trouble, not me, I don't be bothered. But there are so many leading editors who can't string a sentence of English together. And these people are meant to transmit opinion, thought to a wider audience. So, it's very important, and to take off from what Matthew and Mani said, you have to contextualize the freedom of speech. Now, if you have a bunch of idiots in the censor board, what kind of cinema are you going to have? You might as well show a daily run of the Mahabharata, Ramayana, the Bible and the Quran, being as secular as we are, and forget all cinema. Because what is a guy going to do if he wants to molest a woman, or a man wants to molest a man? I don't want to be gender insensitive in a film. What is he supposed to do? He can't use expletives. He has to tell her, hello, why don't you come in? So I can really be rude, and may I please, Now, if you have people of feeble intellect running important, creative, regulatory authorities, you're going to have a cookie-cutter culture. And there is no freedom of speech. Go out 1 kilometer from here, stand in the middle and say Raj Thackeray is an idiot. If you don't get burned alive, I'll change my name. That's how intolerant we are. So there is actually a pernicious culture of fear that has happened. And this is serious.
Can I just chip in and ask you some questions? Because as we try to chart things on Global, doing daily coverage now, has it got worse in the time frame, say, the last 18 months, the last year, the last 2 years? What is the time frame that's got worse?
See, the so-called secular journalists who have made tons of money from previous regimes are out to bitch out Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi is just about as bad as Sonia Gandhi was. Except that Sonia Gandhi you couldn't understand because she spoke Italian English or English Italian depending on which side of the bed she woke up from. The reality is, both these political parties, and almost all political parties, have actually inflicted violence and control. Look at the beauty. Most channels in our states, the regional channels, are owned by politicians from that state. The Badals own the largest channel in Punjab. And that is in addition to the booze channel that they also own. So these are the conflicts of interest. And I was just saying, you guys are laughing, but this is it.
But are those channels trusted by the people that watch them?
They don't have a choice because what the Badals do is they tell the distributor, shut all the other channels and that's the only channel you'll see. So in addition to seeing your wife and 2 ugly children, you don't have a choice. So you might as well see that channel which Badals Right.
Controversial
topics. I will deny all of this.
Sunil's really happy he got the applause.
Maybe there's some cameras around. Okay, let's see. Thoughts from the floor, because we've got an interesting discussion going here. First of all, let's do a show of hands. How many people in the room trust the main TV channel that they watch? Not a lot of people. We won't ask who watches Ending TV and who watches India Today and so on. Gentlemen here have a question. Let's keep them short because we want to involve as many people as possible. And questions rather than long comments. And tell us who you are, where you come from.
My name is Rajesh Kumar Singh. I write for a film portal called BollywoodTrade.com.
Sorry?
BollywoodTrade.com. I also have my own website called khulumkhulla.net. It's a free expression.
We can't hear you.
Rajesh Kumar Singh from Bollywood